So, three things that helped me on this journey to conceiving naturally and to becoming a mother. The 9 to 10 months as well after the conception happens. Uh, it doesn't necessarily have to be a smooth journey for everyone, especially for me, it wasn't. But I really genuinely believe that the strong prayer life that I had prior to conceiving really helped me to get through the pregnancy journey. I went through a lot of complications, but fortunately it did not affect the baby, and it didn't really harm me as well. And I really believe that the grace of God is so important. The protection of God is so important, because, it doesn't matter if you do everything right, in terms of, physically, or even in terms of, it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, or all those things doesn't matter. It makes life easier, but if you don't have the grace of God, all those things can just really go to waste, and things can still go wrong. So, number one was I intensified my prayer life. So, when I was searching through YouTube and researching about women who had overcome infertility naturally, I came across testimonies from women who had conceived in their 40s. And even though doctors had told them medically it is impossible for you to conceive, they still went on to conceive without treatment. And I remember one of the testimonies was from a center called the Divine Mercy Center in India, run by Father Jose. And I remember hearing women who, they had completely stopped all treatment, fertility treatment, and they just intensified their prayer life. And it to me, it sounded unreal that, just by changing your prayer life, that you can conceive and you can go on to become a mother, which is what God wants, for women to become mothers, to either become a spiritual mother or to bear children of their own and to become mothers. So I was very desperate, that I was willing to try anything, even changing my prayer life. And so this Divine Mercy center in India, what the priest, Father Jose, had made was a very intensive prayer program for people who were desperate for solutions. And so I, with complete faith and hope, ended up doing this. And what it entailed was 9 days of praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet. But here's a trick. It was 9 days of praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet 9 times each day, reading the Bible every single day for those 9 days. And I can't remember exactly if it was 30 minutes of reading the Bible or an hour, but I believe there was a specification that, you had to follow through. And attending daily mass. So I attended daily mass for 9 days, even though I was working full time. I found a way to attend a church nearby to my workplace during my lunch break. So instead of socializing or instead of having lunch, or doing work during my lunch break, I would go straight to the church and attend daily mass, which ran for half an hour on weekdays. So I was able to fulfill that requirement. And the other requirement was adoration. So blessed, attending adoration either through online or through in person at a church. So I did both. I would go to a church that had 24/7 adoration, and I would also try and attend online adoration. So that was very intense. Trying to do it for 9 days was not easy, especially with full-time work, being married, having responsibilities at home, having responsibilities, to the community, and all the other things I try to juggle. It was not easy, and trying to get sleep in as well. So, but I don't know, I think through supernatural grace, I was able to complete the 9 days of intensive prayer. And I remember one of the highlights for me was when I attended one of the daily masses on Monday. The priest essentially gave me a blessing after mass. He prayed for me to start a family as soon as possible in God's perfect timing. And the words he prayed for me, which were, for I know the plans I have for you, plans of hope and for a future. That really struck a chord within me. And he really just, even though he kind of suspected in the beginning that, I was delaying having a family deliberately. I think he could see from my just the expressions of my face and just from talking to me that I was actually genuinely more than happy to have a family of my own. It just wasn't happening. And so he prayed for me and he laid his hands on my head and prayed for me and blessed me. And that always will be a memory for me, a beautiful memory for me. So I completed the 9 days of intensive prayer. And just, yeah, I just can't believe how God works. Just, you could do all the things right. You can do all the fertility treatments. You can have a perfect diet, but still there are so many people who cannot fall pregnant, who cannot conceive naturally. And I think in those cases, we have nothing else to do but to turn to God. And so, moving on to the second thing I did, was I completely changed my diet. So, again, I started doing some research and I found, again, on YouTube, women who had changed their diet to a carnivore diet. And so that meant completely cut out all the carbohydrates from their daily diet. So I would, even I would have rice once or twice a day. I would have bread. I would have biscuits. Just yeah, just I completely cut it out. I was so desperate, and I didn't even do it for that long. I just did this diet for a month, and it appears to have worked. I know that my cycle was less painful, and I've always kind of had irregular cycles, but I noticed that there was definitely a change in my body. I was sleeping better. I wasn't craving anymore. So just I would have egg or meat for breakfast, and I would have something meat related again for lunch. So I would have either lamb fried, or I would have a steak fried, and then again I would have the same thing for dinner as well. And I felt really full. I would also have fruits and a bit of vegetables as well on the side as well, but I would not have any carbohydrates. And I did that strictly for a month, and then I ended up falling pregnant the next month. So it was really great. And during the pregnancy, I didn't follow through this diet. I went back to having carbohydrates, but it worked. I think it worked in my case. I definitely could feel a change in my body. I had more energy. Cravings had decreased, and just yeah, I think whatever you do, having a diet that does help you to feel more full, gives you more energy, can't harm you. I'm not sure though if you've got other health conditions, if it's advisable that you follow this diet. So definitely consult with your doctor or your OBGYN before you start this diet. And I don't think it's safe to follow this diet throughout pregnancy, but I'm not sure. I definitely had carbohydrates throughout all of my pregnancy. So yeah, I changed my diet to a carnivore diet, and the third thing I did was I asked my friends in my Catholic community to pray for me. So we used to have prayer meetings at my home, and on one of those prayer meetings, it was a very difficult thing for me to do. But our leader asked, is there, do you have any prayer intentions to the whole group? And I, in all my vulnerability and in my desperation, I said, yeah, look, I've got to go for this medical examination procedure. And I had to, I can't remember if I explained it to them, but I essentially said, I've got to go for a medical procedure. And this medical procedure essentially is quite painful and it's quite expensive, but it's to hopefully help me conceive naturally. But the risks of infection, the risks of that procedure going wrong is still possible. And yeah, I asked my friends in this community to pray for me, and they prayed for me. And I remember after this prayer meeting, one of the friends, she's a midwife, she messaged me saying that, I pray and I have faith that this is, maybe a hiccup, just a hiccup in your journey to becoming a mother. And I'll keep praying for you. And just those words really meant a lot to me. And so, in the Bible, it does say that, when two or more of you gather in Jesus' name, that prayer will be answered. And I do believe that if it's God's will, and if it's meant for you, that God will allow it to happen when two or more people pray for you. So I hope this video helps in in some regard. I do genuinely believe that when everything else fails, when you've tried everything, and the last resort is essentially to turn to God, um, God will do something incredible. He is a God of miracles, and He does do the impossible. He makes the impossible possible, and sometimes there's no medical explanations for it, and that's how you know it's God. For me, the fact that that um, like I went through this time, even though I was healthy and I didn't have any medical conditions. That was, I didn't have any diagnosed medical conditions. My husband didn't have any diagnosed medical conditions, and yet we were still unable to conceive. Just shows that, look, God is probably the only answer. That He turning to Him will help. Even if you don't get your desired solution, if motherhood is not what God intended for you. Maybe He has more better plans or more beautiful plans. Maybe it is to serve in the church. Maybe it's to have a change in your profession or your vocation, to serve the community in a different way. But I do believe all women have this innate desire to be a mother, to nurture, to bring a child into this world, or to be a spiritual mother, to really care for um, children who need them. And I believe either if you're a spiritual mother or if you've given birth, either way, both of them are a calling from God, and it's a beautiful calling. And I hope this helps. And yeah, thank you for listening.